Thank you all for joining us today here at the screening room at 500 Park Avenue with the Related family. I'm trying to think back, Andy's about to come in, when were some of the early first sales that we've done with Related. And if I'm not mistaken, this goes back to 2002, 2003.
Good days.
The good days, right? When we were able to do, I don't know, 10 contracts per buyer. But we don't talk about those days anymore. Those days are over now. We've learned some nice lessons from it. We're living in very interesting times here in the Northeast, where there's all sorts of trials and tribulations. We're being tested in New York. What else will it take to get us down to South Florida? Is it the taxes? Is it the weather? This has been one heck of a winter. Days of 0 weeks in a row, and all I can think about is Miami. And so we've had our conference there in January, and we got another good taste of it. And now we've dragged Miami into New York so that it resonates better and stronger. It's an interesting dynamics between South Florida and New York. The markets, the way they operate. When things are good here, we buy there, so we have a nice secondary options. When things are bad here, we buy there anyway, so that we have an option to escape. But overall speaking, when I think about it now, after selling New York and Miami for over 20 years, it's really one and the same. The energy, the dynamics, the culture, the people. When I go down to Miami Beach and I get into a restaurant, 30% of the people in the room are people probably I know from New York. And so for some of us that have not yet enjoyed the great South Florida market, this is a great opportunity to hear it from the source. Craig here, Studnicky, has been doing it, I'm not going to say from how long, but
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, his first assignment was sometime around my birth. And Craig is an institution in South Florida and Miami. He publishes an incredible market report, probably the most important market report, and he's going to talk to us about that. He's going to talk to us about what's happening in the South Florida market, Miami market. And Nick Pérez here is probably, I would say, heir the throne to the most important development family company that has changed the Miami skyline. Is probably responsible. When you look at the Miami skyline, you can point every 3-4 buildings, something that Related had something to do with, one way or another. And so we're very privileged and honored to have this team here, hearing it directly from the source. Let's get aware, let's be educated once again, so that it's top of mind. And if it's top of mind, it's top of our keyboards and our phones and our text messages. We're going to take all these projects and recirculate them to our clients and our customers and our investors, and earn some very respectable commissions, which is what we're in for, right? So I'll pass it on to Craig. Thank you guys. We appreciate you coming down here and sharing this fortune with us.
Okay. Well, sure. Let me just start with Nick is the president of the Condominium division of Related in Miami. I'm the president of Related Realty. So my job is to manage, encourage, supervise all the sales of all of these beautiful properties. But I got to hand it to you, Ed. A group of you came down to Miami a couple of months ago.
Yes.
I met Ed Shapiro about 20 years ago when we were selling 10 units to one individual buyer. We had a lot of fun doing that.
Yes.
You were mostly a New York company then. And I was so impressed when I met some of the net seekers, sales associates from around the country in Miami a couple of months ago. I'll speak for this guy. Nick Pérez is a very busy guy. He is here out of respect to you.
I really appreciate
and
that.
ditto for me, for you and all of your team. So it's a pleasure for us to be here as well.
Thank you.
Want to help you grow your company and at the same time help you sell some of our beautiful real estate in South Florida. Kill two birds with one stone.
Yes, perfect. Let's do it then.
So
I can see about 5 sales per chair here.
Yeah.
Okay, otherwise you don't get to leave the chair. Okay.
Now, and by the way, we did bring a lot of our sales team members with us. We've got Brickell Avenue staring at me right now. I've got Pompano Beach and Hillsborough staring at me. In the back of the room, there's Brickell. In the back of the room, there's West Palm Beach. And I might be missing one. And we've
Bal
got,
Harbour, Fisher
sorry,
Island.
we've got Fisher Island and Bal Harbour. If there's a question that you have specifically about any of these specific projects that Nick and I might have overlooked, I promise you that these wonderful people can fill in the blanks for you. And that kind of defines part of where we are right now, right, Nick?
Yeah.
You're developing from actually right now Brickell, soon Coral Gables, all the way up to Palm Beach. So Related is South Florida, no question about that.
Absolutely. There was a point that I would share from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We had this board. Now we don't have a board. Everything is digital. But back in the day with these whiteboards in the office, Wendy probably remembers, 20s 49. Yeah, do you remember that? And we would write down on the board, you know, every time there's a deal, someone has something in contract, you put it on the list and try to get everybody else motivated around that and create some competition. And at some point, the Miami section was longer than New York. And it was icon, Sunny Isles, icon, Sunny Isles, icon. And I miss those days. And I hope that after we're done with this moment here, we can relive those days. It was phenomenal. You know?
I don't want to relive Icon because no one showed up to close.
Yes, yeah. It was.
That was part of the 2008 thing.
Yeah.
That changed the guidelines under which we sell real estate now.
Yeah.
Because now the construction led back into what I was referring to back in 2002 and 3, it was 20% down and I'll see you at closing.
Yeah.
It was 10% at contract, 10% when we broke ground, and the rest of it was I'll see you when the building is finished.
Yeah.
And then this year, 2008 showed up. That was not a fun year. For those of us that, for most of us that don't ever understand what 1929 was, that's as close as we ever got to it. We never want to visit that ever again. But the banks changed all their underwriting guidelines, and now they insist that developers, like Related, like me and everyone here, we have to ask for 40% or sometimes 50% deposits from the buyers that they have to have in escrow before the building is complete.
Staged.
Oh, it's staged,
Not
yes.
to panic, it's
10%,
staged.
yeah, it's staged. But those, it's actually done a couple of things, though. It has brought, it's caused a different caliber of buyer to come to South Florida. And there's a fact, I'll share a lot of facts with you today. Last year, every house, every condo that sold for over $1,000 per square foot in the resale market, I'm not talking about pre-construction right now, 70% of those sales were cash. There is now more equity in South Florida real estate than we've ever seen, ever. And I've been there for 32 years. I'm originally from New Jersey. And most of 32 years ago, everybody was taking out an 80% loan-to-value mortgage, 75%, 70%. Man, that has completely flipped.
Yeah.
So there was a silver lining to what happened in 2008.
100%. And on that note, it's speaking of great equity. If you look at the ultra high end of the market in the past 6 months to a year, every major transaction, particularly the ones that are 100 plus, were all in Miami. They're all in South Florida. And that's a kind of a phenomenon, right? We haven't seen that in the previous, I don't want to call it cycles anymore because we're not in a cycle, in my opinion. I think Florida has changed. One of the things that our key point in this day and age is that the jobs are there. We're starting to see all the investment banks that have moved down there. We're starting to see tech companies. Is it Palantir that's now relocated? They're a whole executive team and
That AI company, yeah.
AI company.
Yeah.
Citadel is now building, I believe, 2 headquarters over there. They've got their big main tower in and Brickell and another structure they're putting together, and they're invested there. That's the biggest hedge fund in the world. And more businesses are moving down there. So it's not really just about nightclubs and beautiful restaurants and beaches and bikinis. It's really where there's incredible job opportunities, and I think where the future is, right? Future economical opportunities. Craig, tell us about, last time we met, you gave us some incredible presentation about some of the fundamentals, statistics, numbers. Can we throw some big numbers at us?
Yeah, well, data. Let's call it data. We're going to explain some of the qualities of these beautiful properties, and I'd love to have Nick explain to all of you why he's married so many of these wonderful hospitality brands to these properties, because you need to understand the why. But before we get to that, I'll give you a couple facts. You just made reference to these $100 million sales. About 3 years, the CEO of this company, Citadel, which is one of the largest hedge funds in the world, not just the U.S., uprooted the entire organization from Chicago to Miami, specifically Brickell Avenue. And it's about 3 years ago, he bought this mansion in Coconut Grove. It belonged to this woman, Adrienne Arts. Adrienne Arts is our Carnegie Hall. It's right in downtown Miami. Architecturally, it's spectacular. It's the Adrienne Arts Center. Ken Griffin bought her home, and he paid about $120 million for a house in Miami. Now, it's a mansion, and it's on the water, but we never had a piece of real estate sell for that kind of money. Since then, about every 2 months, a house in Miami, most of them are waterfront, sells for more than $100 million. And most of it is strictly for land value. Strictly for land value. These are all going to be teardowns. So the phenomenon of there is a wealth migration coming to Miami that was kind of kicked off by Mr. Ken Griffin. Yeah. Of late, some of you have probably heard some realtors in Miami say, we're going to be the next Silicon Valley of the United States. I was with Nick in Mexico, and someone asked us that question. And I said, well, I'm a baby boomer, which doesn't make me a technological genius, but I have been in this real estate game a long time. There's a guy named Larry Page who's the CEO of Google.
Yep.
There's a guy named Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's running this company called Facebook. And then there's a guy named Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of this company called Amazon. Now, these are three of the largest tech companies in the world, previously based in California. Now, these guys all live permanently in Miami, and they each paid well over $100 million. Heck, in Zuckerberg's case, I think the final ticket was $175 million to buy a couple of lots together on Indian Creek, which is Miami Beach. So my guess is, using just some common sense, that the CEOs of these companies have declared Miami as their permanent home. The rest of the companies can't be too far behind. So does it have a chance of becoming the next Silicon Valley? Yeah. Yep. I also hear realtors say, we're the Wall Street of the South. Well, the reason they declare Miami the Wall Street of the South is because the largest concentration of commercial banks in the United States is Wall Street. And I know you know that. But the second highest concentration of commercial banks is in Miami on Brickell Avenue. And that has a lot to do with the influence that Miami has with, or I should say our relationship with all of Latin America. So then you hear realtors say, which, Nick, you've been hearing this forever, we're the gateway to Latin America. Well, geographically, yeah, we are. Where Miami is closer to Latin America than any other major city in the United States. And I personally enjoyed that for the last 30-some years I've been living in Miami. You put all of those facts together, and then I refer back to Ken Griffin, who bought Adrienne Arts' home, who moved Citadel from Chicago to Miami, who a couple of years ago in the Wall Street Journal said that Miami is becoming the model city of the United States for the 21st century. And I thought he was a little over, I really did. I thought he was over his skis on that one, Ed.
Yep.
Because I live there and I love Miami, but the model city of the U.S. for this entire century. But of late, when I see the kind of real estate that is being purchased, the kind of wealth migration that continues to sustain itself, the friendly nature that South Florida has towards capital, and ironically, some help we get from states like New York and California. The state of Washington a couple of weeks ago imposed a new wealth tax. The tax environments of the three states, as an example that I just mentioned, encourage a lot of this wealth migration. It's not just a lot of people coming.
Yeah.
It's not just a lot of people. It's
Yeah,
the profile.
People want to be around and emulate success, right? And so what you don't see in the headlines, you see the ticket items of $100 million, $150 million sales. There are constant 10, 15, 20, 25, $30 million sales that don't make the paper, if you will, or the real deal.
Yeah. They're not newsworthy.
Those are the executives that work for the Larry Pages, the Mark Zuckerbergs who are moving down, and the Citadel employees that are moving down, moving their families. And it's not just the $100 million sales. It's, for example, I'm just going to go to Fisher Island right now. Just signed 2 contracts, each of $130 and $135 million. Rivage, we're about to sign a $45 million deal and another, I think, $30 million deal. So those you don't read about because they don't hit the tax roll yet, right? But those sales are happening. The ultra high end of the market is extremely strong. And I was just looking up here, and I think this is the first time I've come to New York where all of these projects are under construction. Usually the pre-development market in Miami, you're coming up, you're trying to start sales, you're trying to start construction. It's a big sales pitch, yeah, I promise we're going to start, I promise we're going to pay commissions. We're doing all that on all of these, which is nice. And they're all in the water, which I just realized. So, it's not so bad. And we brought this portfolio up here, and by the way, there's probably 4 other projects I'm selling that aren't on this page, that range from $1 million to $80 million for the Rivage billionaire bunker for the penthouse. And so the strength and the demand is extremely strong, especially in this segment of the market. I mean, all of these projects are over 50% sold. Viceroy was just completed, so you can move in today if you really want to escape Hamdani quickly. And then, you got the beach and you got Brickell. And so, and of course you have West Palm Beach, which Chris Levitt back in the corner who's looking at his phone. I'm just kidding. He's done an amazing job. We broke ground last week and we're almost 90% sold. That market has been a huge boom, and we're obviously planning on doing more there.
And by the way, what Nick just said is a really strong point. I promise every single one of you in this room have clients that might not be talking to you out loud about Florida, but they're thinking about it more than ever. I promise you. So it would be, in my opinion, just some friendly advice from a guy from New Jersey, to start proactively having this conversation with your clients about Miami. What Nick just pointed out about all these buildings under construction is a big deal. We sell I sell every day in Miami. And if I haven't broken... And Broward, sorry. And sorry, West Palm, sorry. Let's call it South Florida.
South Florida. Yeah.
When there are beautiful condominiums being pre-sold, pre-construction, you haven't broken ground, it's getting harder and harder to convince somebody to buy into that condominium, because especially from the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, they're planning on moving there. Let me just say, for the 32 years I've been there, before COVID, 2/3 of my annual sales to the New York area were second homes. I mean, the weather in Miami is always nice. It just is. If you like boating, if you like tennis, in my case, he's a great tennis player. I used to be a pretty good golfer. You can do all of that all the time in South Florida. So it makes sense why so many of my sales were second homes.
Right.
But COVID happened. There's that old expression, there's nothing more permanent in life than a temporary solution. A lot of people came to Miami in 2020 to escape what was happening in New York. And just because if I'm going to be in quarantine, I at least want to be able to walk outside once in a while in nice weather, get some fresh vitamin D on my face and enjoy some warm weather. And they stayed. And now they just keep coming. In other words, the coin flipped. Now 2/3 of my sales are from people that are coming here permanently. I mean, Nick, parking's as important as the swimming pool now, right? Because everybody's coming with 2 cars and a dog and a cat and kids and so on. When he just said to you, most of his developments are under construction. So when I look at somebody and say, we're under construction, based on the construction schedule, we'll have this thing finished in about 30 months, 24 months. Maybe you add 6 months to me, but you believe it because you're planning on a move, which is a big deal. So the fact that his properties, our properties, are under construction makes it easier for us to sell, because it makes it easier for your client to plan their lives. It's no small fact.
Well, if the sunshine and the weather and the beach and the pools and the brands. Every project here has a story, has a brand associated with it, and the experience of instead of pulling up on, let's say, 35th Street and trying to get around, I guess, a homeless guy or something, to get to your front door. You're coming into a circular drive. There's valet or someone's going to take your car and put it in the parking, and you walk in, and the lobby is massive, and everything is more spacious and more luxurious and finished. Well, if that won't get you to think about Miami and South Florida, maybe 50% inheritance tax would. This was floating last week, I guess, here in the news, and I sent it to our group text, the family text, and I sent it to my kids, and they got a heart attack. There goes your future. 40% will go to New York City, New York State. So as I mentioned, they're just making it easier.
So they're not counting the days of Ed Shapiro's at the end of his life anymore, right? Since the inheritance tax is going to take it away anyway.
Right.
So, Dad, I hope you live forever.
Right. Right. With change of plan, right? Or let's move to Florida. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Make that the primary residence. And this is interesting dynamics because for months people were escaping the city during the COVID era and moved into Long Island and made Long Island and the Hamptons and Connecticut the primary residence. They still keep a residence here in New York. And they work that 4-day week, 3-day week, and they're in and out. And that kind of became the primary, and this became the secondary. Maybe that's how it shakes up with Florida becoming more of a primary residence, and you're still connected to New York. I've been a New Yorker for 30 years. I love this city. It's an important city. It's a critical city. It's always going to be New York, right? And so if you can afford to, you integrate a lifestyle where you're back and forth. And you know what? The kids can grow up in the sunshine rather than 5 degrees or 10 minus here on 4 months out of the year, 5 months out of the year. And we could still have the best of both worlds, right? So it shouldn't be let's run away and we all move into La Rivage or the Baccarat, which we're already doing resales. You haven't delivered it, right?
Which one?
The Baccarat.
No, Baccarat's like a year and a half. That was it's a monster. It's been 76 stories?
Yeah.
75.
75 stories with a year underground, yeah.
So we sold a number of units there. We already have buyers through our networks that are saying, can I buy the contract? Now, I know we don't do that assignment stuff anymore and so on and so forth. But a project that was just 2 years ago selling for X number of dollars, the values have gone up. And we haven't seen values moving at that rate in New York for a long time. It's been generally flat, and Florida is still experiencing that. Miami's still experiencing that. You can go into contract with something that hasn't even been built yet, and you probably doubled your equity, your down payment, or tripled it.
Right. And Craig can talk about this at length, as you know, Craig likes to talk.
Once I get started.
I can never reiterate enough of a sense of urgency. And I know that sounds, I'm a developer, I'm trying to sell my units, but everything always gets more expensive eventually, right? Miami has, real estate in general is cyclical, right? Where there's peaks and there's troughs, but it always comes back higher. And it has to, right? Land is more expensive. Materials are more expensive, especially with tariffs. You're bringing in nice material from Italy, Turkey, Mexico, and labor is always going up, right? So if you just follow that logic, the price of a unit is always going to get more expensive. Here's the clearest point. Baccarat sold out 90% of the building at $1,000 a foot. 1,000. Or St. Regis. St. Regis Brickell down the street, arguably, similar type product. We're selling at blended now $2,500 a foot, right? In a span of 3 years, right?
That's why the Baccarat, the initial contracts
is
now
a
worth
steal. Our buyers are going to be so happy, which we love, right? So that is why pre-construction, when you get in first, the price appreciation, probably in the market, but I say in related buildings, if you buy, by the time you break ground, and by the time you finish, that appreciation is between 15 and 20%. And so that is why you want to get in early. Now, the prices have gone up. But again, the next project I'm going to launch in West Palm Beach after the Ritz is done, probably going to be 15, 20% higher, right? It also costs me more. And so if your buyers are looking to enter the market, there's no better time than now, whether it's Palm Beach, whether it's Pompano. Pompano, the Waldorf with Maria here, she's, you know, let's call it that we just sold, well, I can't talk about what we just sold for. We just sold an amazing penthouse for a record-setting price in the region. We started our first project in Pompano together, and we sold out at $850 a foot. We're going to blend there at $1,800 a foot, right? So it shows you the progression, and I think, you know, also the related story of finding and creating value for our buyers.
And the credibility. I think it's you won't hear that as often, but sometimes it does make a difference when you have a developer that has executed on 50 projects, 100 projects maybe at this point, you know?
It's 120,000 units. I don't know how many.
120,000 units that were designed, built, and delivered, and people are living in it. And many of them became very, very rich by just buying and living in there, doing nothing but living there. There's nothing like passive income where you just sit there or you put a deposit on the unit and 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, your personal net worth quadrupled just because you own that unit, right? And Related has done that for so many people, for so many buyers and investors, delivering the product is also an important issue, and delivering it where I don't know how often you get complaints where people say, "Oh, it's not what I thought," right?
You're always going to get complainers, no matter what. But there's nothing better than having repeat buyers or even a happy customer. Last night we had a design talk, and Maria here introduced me to one of our buyers at a former project in Pompano, and they said, "Thank you." Right? We're so happy, and now they're thinking of buying a second unit, right? So I have to deliver the best that I can on our promises because I'm just getting started in my career. So I want to keep building forever. But we want those repeat buyers, and we have those repeat buyers. So we're not just, Miami's become a little bit of a cowboy market where someone you've never heard of is launching a project, and, people actually go and brokers take buyers there. So, a lot of our sales pitch today, especially in this competitive market, is look who the developer is, look what they've done. They're going to honor, what they say they're going to do because I have to move on to the next one. And that also allows me to not hold out for every penny, right? I want buyers to get value in their unit, right? Because what will they do when they're happy? They'll buy another one.
100%. And that makes a difference. We have seen developers in New York and in South Florida come in, it's their first or second project. They're learning. They're learning as they go. Sometimes they mean well, but they learn that, the windows cost that much more, and so on and so forth. But having the experience of 120,000 delivered units, you're in good hands. You're going to get a finished product. You're going to get value. And if there is something you're unhappy with, there's enough of a bandwidth and an infrastructure there that's going to make it right one way or another. But that matters a lot.
Yeah, and I would say COVID actually, pushed the Miami market to become better as far as quality and consistency, right? And so, especially when you partner with these brands who have these brand requirements and minimums of types of material, amenity spaces, quality controls, Related has Related. I worked for Related in New York for a long time too. So, the quality of construction here is very high. You also have it unionized, right? So it's expensive, but it's good. And the New York movement, I would say, into South Florida has really pushed our development community to really get better and sharpen our pencils and deliver a new set of quality in our buildings. And I think all of these, you will see that.
How important was the Bright Line to changing transportation and the evolution of South Florida? To me, that's the game changer. It was always to get from Miami to Fort Lauderdale to Palm. It's a whole. You get on I-95 and you're in traffic hell.
The best is Disney World.
Oh yeah.
The best is you don't have to pay attention for 3.5 hours while your kids are screaming at you. You just put them with their iPad on the train. Don't worry about it.
Right.
But it was a bit of a game changer. And by the way, I did bring the Miami report. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but there are a few slides I'd like to show everybody to give you an idea of the trends that have taken place in South Florida since COVID. COVID changed everything. COVID changed our lives in so many ways, and it changed South Florida as well, including making the state of Florida from a population standpoint, it's been the first, sometimes second, sometimes first, sometimes second fastest growing state in the United States. It's Texas and Florida and Texas. One thing we both have in common is there's no state income tax.
Yep.
And very soon it looks like our Governor
DeSantis,
is going to get his way and reduce property taxes.
That's incredible.
on your primary residence.
If you live there, if you New Yorkers move to Miami and you declare or Broward or Palm Beach, Florida, and declare it your permanent residence, your property taxes next year will more than likely be cut in half. So at the least. So we're going to, as a headline, Nick and I get to tell the world, not only does the state of Florida not have a state income tax, but we probably have the lowest property taxes in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Brightline, well, all of that contributed to us growing by, last year, the fastest growing state in the country was Texas by 1,450 net population gain every day, followed by Florida, 1,350 people net population gain every day. So in South Florida gets about a third of that. So the roads got crowded.
Yeah.
So about 10 years ago, thank God Brightline had a little vision here. This high-speed train called Brightline came into existence, and Interstate 95 during commute time is Manhattan now. It's
really connected to three counties, more than I could have imagined. When it first started, I'm like, I left New York. I don't want to get another train. I take the subway every day. Yeah. I go to West Palm Beach for a meeting. Takes me an hour and 5 minutes on the train. I can have an hour meeting, 2-hour meeting. I'm back in the office by 12 and productive. You even now have special trains where they put a little Miami Heat symbol where people in West Palm or Palm Beach or Jupiter can go, and you take the train literally steps from the arena and then go back, right? Yep. So you can even take the train to a connecting point and take a bus to the Miami Dolphin games, right? And just even to Fort Lauderdale to avoid the pinch points in traffic. So the Brightline is a huge driver of economic activities between the Tri-County areas.
Yeah.
On weekends, there's a lot of Miami folks that speak Espanol or Portuguese that are shopping on Worth Avenue now in Palm Beach because it's just so easy because of Brightline. Next point is it united the counties, and it did. From like a sociology perspective, we're like one unit now, and we're becoming one unit. I'm telling you, the Brightline was a big step in that direction.
That's great. That's great. So, shall we jump into your report real quick?
I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to give you some trend lines because some of your folks.
Shake it off.
I must have this friction thing going on with my sock. Just a couple of slides. We can go past this stuff. I want to show you. These were transactions that I've been trending since 2020, above $10 million. You can see the trend in 2021. Please remember, in case you forgot, that in 2020, the U.S. Fed lowered interest rates to 0 because of what we were going through in 2020, which affected mortgage rates. In 2021, we had 3% mortgages. And people were buying, refinancing, they were doing all kinds of stuff. We sold a lot of homes above $10 million in 2021. Last year, we almost beat the 21 record. Look how it's been trending up and up and up. I've been publishing this Miami report since 2009 because the New York Times wrote a bad story about Miami. I got a little bit upset about it. I don't want to call it fake news. Let's just say they got it wrong. And I repositioned the information based on real data. And so it became a thing. Now I'm publishing the Miami report 4 times a year on behalf of Related. But this shows the trend line from 2020, about 10 million. And I stayed stuck at 10 million because that was the high bar in South Florida. You know, we don't take buyers where we want them to go. They take us where they want to go. It's something that I've learned selling real estate for about 45 years. And I'm going to show you how the buyers that are descending to South Florida have raised the bar. All I'm doing is following the bouncing ball, and I'm about to show it to all of you. If we can go to the next slide, this shows real estate above 30 million. And this is where I stopped in 2024. I didn't go past 30 million because we didn't have a lot of trades over 30 million. But you can see the trend line that last year we kind of blew the record of 2021 away. Remembering that 2021 was the year of the 3% mortgage. We had high mortgage rates last year. High mortgage rates. We were close to, this time last year, we were at 30-year fixed rate loan was 7%. And that's kind of, sorry?
Are you going to
Am I going to give you these
Yeah,
slides?
it's publicly available.
Am I going to give Ed Shapiro and Nest Seekers these slides? Of course I am. Of course, let me just explain it so that you can explain it, because these are all trend lines. And you can use...
The best thing is like, the pushing the brand. If there is a brand that is kind of we bow at in New York City is Related. So if you are, kind of cater to New Yorkers, you just have to say Related and that's it.
Yeah.
Because that's
Related
the brand that
is
has
the blue chip of real estate in New York. I mean, it's the same thing in South Florida.
Yeah.
But that's a very important point that Ruth is making, that it's probably more it might be more important here than it is over there. So
no.
lead with that. Start with Related and then 50 million. No,
I can assure you, it's just as important in Miami. They've been there since 1970.
Here it's like, I've been in the business 24 years, and Related is just people stuff. So it's just, it's lead with it.
But,
And we will. And,
Yeah.
behind all of that are some fundamental data, which will hopefully get you to understand where South Florida is going. And again, this is what buyers have done. So these were closings that took place last year. And as I said in my previous reports, I stopped at 30 million. But I had to raise the bar because the bar got raised by the buyers. If we can go to the next slide, this shows the amount of closings over 50 million. Now, 17 may not seem impressive, but I can assure you that this year, this is going to be closer to 30 or 40 above 50. And by the time, assuming that, Ed, you invite Nick and I back here next year.
Yeah.
Now, this bar is going to be set over 75 million. There is a wealth migration that is coming to South Florida. We talked about some of these CEOs, but behind the CEOs are a lot of their companies. And within those companies are high-paid executives that want nice homes. They want nice homes, preferably on the water. And they're raising the prices of these homes just by the sheer numbers of people that are moving there and the lack of inventory we have. It kind of goes back to basic Keynesian economics, supply and demand. We have a lot more demand than we have supply, which leads me to something that I'm going to ask Nick to talk about. There is the high net worth buyer that is moving to South Florida has different lifestyle preferences since they're moving there permanently. And it was related, once again, they always evolve and adapt to the changing buyer profile that's moving to South Florida. And they've done it again. There are two components architecturally, and then from a marketing standpoint, that they've added to the equation that makes my job a lot easier. One are the amount of not just the amount, but the quality of and the kind of amenities that you've added to all of your projects that these new buyers want to enjoy. It's no longer just about a pool and a gym. Oh no, it's a lot more than that. And then by adding the hospitality brands, as Related took the lead to do, it gives the buyers, at least from my perspective, Olga, you get to say this every day when you're selling St. Regis. You give the buyers, you tap into their imagination, that the day in the life of living in St. Regis on Brickell Avenue on Biscayne Bay means just what? I'm a phone call away from extending the quality of my life. So Nick, please, if you would, you're the ones that brought these hospitality brands to Miami, and you're the ones that caused the architecture to change. You've added some amenities here that's way past a swimming pool and a gym now.
What's your question?
Well, what the kind of amenities that you've added?
No, we had a design talk last night, and I believe some of you were there with Meyer Davis and Marco, head of Artemis, and it was like, how do you define luxury, right? How do people define luxury, and how has it evolved? COVID, it was space, right? Everyone wanted larger units, livability, fresh air out of kind of the jungle of New York, the concrete jungle of New York. Then it changed to services, which you see in all these branded residential, and if you notice, probably 90% of our branded residential is service oriented, right? With 5- and 6-star hotel brands. Actually, all of them are hospitality brands, and so that's important too, because you're not just branding to slap a brand on it and so it's a marketing gimmick. There's teeth and there's legacy behind these brands of hundreds of years of amazing white glove service, from Waldorf to Ritz to St. Regis. Viceroy is having a new kind of evolution in the brand, and so we're bringing that to the buyers because the buyers wanted it. If they didn't want it, I wouldn't be doing so well in sales, right? I wouldn't be building these buildings. I think that's changing now. Services is extremely important. Now everyone is back to thinking about themselves, quality of life, health, longevity. Alcohol sales are down. People are eating better. People are worrying about, how long they're going to live, how long they're going to be healthy. And so biohacking is now becoming an important part of programming the spa. It's no longer a spa and a gym. It's a wellness and longevity facility. We have a lot of the wellness components featured in all of our buildings, where you're going to see, you already have seen a push into people branding off of what I think is kind of like foo-foo wellness and not real. And Related's working on a concept to bring in our next evolution of buildings with a real longevity and wellness partner for kind of our new luxury collection. But I think that's not a fad. I think that's here to stay, right? People will always want to look after themselves, to be there for their kids, for their grandkids longer. Who doesn't want that, right? And so we're starting to program that a lot more in our buildings.
How about taking a walk on the beach for quality of life and for wellness, right? For sanity.
Yeah, or along the bay.
Yeah,
along the bay.
or along
It's,
the bay, downtown, or the amount of parks and open space and open air.
Of biohacking. I don't know. What's the
You're hacking your biology, your systems, your body, your systems.
Looking where you're deficient, how you can be better in certain things.
Thanks, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a Peter Pan inside a lot of the people that are moving to Florida. They know they're growing old, but emotionally they don't want to grow old. I don't want to look like my dad when he got older. May he rest in peace. I don't want to look like my uncles. I want to keep playing golf. I want to keep selling real estate. I want to keep watching the Miami Dolphins lose, unfortunately, until they rebuild the team.
Okay, they have the Jets too.
Unless we play the Jets. It's hard to be a Dolphin fan as is being a Jet fan.
Craig, can we talk about some numbers other than 50 million plus? Because for most of us, the 50 million that come every once in a while, it's obviously that is not the only buyer in Miami. If someone has $1 million, $2 million budget to start with, it's their first residence, maybe it's an investment, maybe they want to tippy toe into that market. All of these projects, majority of them starting price are in the hundreds, right? In many cases, not just in the low millions.
No, I think Viceroy Brickell, which we just delivered and we started closings 2 weeks ago, came out amazing, designed by Meyer Davis. It's going to be managed and branded with Viceroy. The starting price of units, our lease is $600,000 for a one bedroom, right? And that's we call it that's like entry level luxury, right? That is your South American buyer, second home buyer from New York, young professional starting his career, making pretty decent money, wants to dip his toes into home ownership. And so those, Viceroy range from 600,000 to I think 3 million, right? So that's a good entry point. And then you get to Waldorf and Pompano, where the starting price is 5 million now.
2.7.
So way off, sorry.
Intercoastal.
2.7 facing the intercoastal, but facing the water. We're gonna get into details later. She didn't have it. And then you go to Palm Beach, right, where you can get a 2-3 bedroom apartment for now starting at $3.5 million. So we really have a price point for everyone, because you can't just bank on the 17 sales, right? Above 50 million, right?
Yep.
So we program and price buildings specifically for their locations and their offerings, right? But again, the price appreciation that's happened in markets like Brickell, we started selling St. Regis Brickell. The cheapest unit was like on a per square foot basis was a two den, and we were starting at like $1,300 a foot for those, we call them the worst units in the building. Direct views of the water with all the amenities and services of St. Regis, same finishes and everything. Now the cheapest line is like $2,200 a foot, right? In the span of 3 years. So again, urgency, if price is a consideration, which it obviously is, it's a big decision, they keep going up.
Yeah, this just goes to, you suggested that maybe condos in New York City have kind of flatlined a little bit. That's not happening in South Florida because of the amount of people that are moving there and the quality of the people and this wealth migration that we're experiencing. But to the next point, no, we've got a menu of product that can fit everyone's price point. This just demonstrates how Florida is changing and the quality of this wealth migration, these high net worth individuals that have chosen Florida as their new primary home. And it's changing the whole energy down there. What I love about Related to us is the way they've changed the architecture to meet, call it psychographically, how the new buyer that's coming to South Florida, whether they're coming from the United States, Canada, call it North America, or all of South America, from Mexico City down to Buenos Aires, those that are choosing to spend perhaps the rest of their lives in South Florida, they want the architecture that Related is building right now. They want more. They want that extension of their lifestyle, and that's how it's changing the energy and the pricing trends of what's happening down there.
Yeah, and I think Craig alluded to this earlier. The supply-demand imbalance is huge, right? We don't build enough housing to meet the demand. I think a function of that is not a function of that. You're not going to. There's been 150 projects announced.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Yeah, let me. Yeah, if you
so
can,
whatever the number is.
Keep going past this one.
There's been
past this one.
150
Go there.
projects from a condominium standpoint.
Keep going. Yeah, this is just a bunch of more data, but I'm going to add all of this. Keep going. More, please. More. I want to go to the pre-construction slide. Here we go. Next one.
That's our office.
Boom.
Here we go.
There we go.
Right. So you look at the number of projects announced, and it's 153 total condo buildings. Announced doesn't mean construction, right? And so we need to build. It's become very competitive in South Florida, and so we always try. It's kind of like I was like, why are so many people competing against me, right? But there's so many projects that. What you do as developers in South Florida is you usually reach a certain pre-sale threshold before you break ground and start building and then deliver the units. There's been so much noise, like I said, of people announcing projects and brokers bringing buyers to developments that have never, a developer who's never built before. And so you have all these buyers that have spread around 150 projects that don't get started, right? Where if it was kind of less noise and a little more triangulated effort, you'd see a lot more building happening, but that's the nature of the beast, right? Everyone wants to be in Florida, not only to live, but also to build and hopefully make a profit. But we're definitely not building fast enough to meet up the demand that's coming to South Florida.
You're definitely not. And by the way, let me explain this real quickly. I know it looks a little complicated. The blue color represents what we call short-term rentals, condo hotels, a popular product for people that see themselves spending not full-time, part-time, vacation time in South Florida, and then when they're not there, they hand the keys over to the management company to rent out on a daily or weekly basis. That pink color, that red color, whatever color that is, I'm not colorblind, I just don't know how to describe that color. Those are what we call traditional condos, and that's most of the business that Related's involved in. Huh?
Magenta.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Magenta. And as that shows, there's 16,000 of them. Between Miami and Broward County, Maria Scarola. That's not enough. I'm asking you to trust the math. I did this math in the last decade, from 2012 to 2020.
Well, you have an average, 1,200 people, 1,000 people a day moving to South Florida?
No, it's 1,350 to Florida, of which 1/3, that's Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, South Florida. 1/3 of that goes to South Florida. Every single day.
So call it 300 per month times 30. Help me. 30 times 300. 9,000. Multiply that by 12 months out of the year. So that's to the Miami market moved by 10. So 100,000 people. You need 100,000 new housing just to accommodate the new residents. Are we building 100,000 new units a year in those markets?
Between the condominiums and multifamily rentals, you're building a lot, but you're still not building enough.
Not 100,000.
No,
you're not delivering 100,000. You could have 150 projects, but they take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and some of them are not going to make it, right?
I did the following math. We have to build 20. Forget the rentals right now. We have to build 20,000 condos every 10 years just to accommodate the population gains. Forget the second home buyer. So it's a big market, but so I don't mean to forget them. I'll just put
Just
them on
the
the shelf.
existing
And put like the investor market, because a lot of South Americans love to invest in real estate in South Florida because it's proven to be, from a track record perspective, a very smart idea for Latin Americans. Forget those two markets, just to accommodate the population gains. Well, you see here, there's 16,000 of them, of the traditional condos, of which half of them are under construction. Most belong to Related. Only half of them are under construction. So if we're supposed to build 20, and we're only going to be building 8,000 in this decade, we're short.
Yeah.
And there's no stopping the train of the population gain.
Now, a little controversial topic, little pivot.
Sure.
And on a good project here in New York, we get paid 2.5%, 3% commission on new construction. What are we paying in South Florida right now?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Depends on the market, between 4 and 6.
Okay. That's another selling point.
Yeah. And I
Double the pay, right?
And I can assure you, if you leave the driving to us, if you leave the driving to the sales teams of these various projects in South Florida, we know how to present South Florida. We know how to present our particular properties. And we know how to close. We know how to close. So if you leave the driving to us, what we're asking your wonderful Nest Seeker associates is
introduce.
please introduce our properties to your clients. And I promise you, we will do a first-class, A-plus job. We're going to ask for your help every now and then, but not all the time. Because I love our sales teams, and they're so good at what they do. And it's kind of easy because South Florida, it's not easy, but it's not that hard selling South Florida when you understand the dynamics of what's happening there.
For years, we've been training our newer agents or the less experienced agents to focus on new construction because it's the best way to learn is to come across a potential buyer, potential seller, and any person in your sphere of influence, your neighbor, the guy down the street, the guy that sold you the sandwich. I want to tell you something that's happening in South Florida. And then once you introduce them to the sales office, you've got the best salespeople in the world. You've got a sales office that's built up, some of them multi-million-dollar budgets for sales experience, renderings, statistics, numbers, everything. And you just sit there and you learn. You actually learn from this experience. The majority of the selling process is done by the on-site team. And so as agents, all we have to do is just focus on the introduction, get that early stage conversation going, and leave it to them. They'll deliver you the 6%. I insist it's 6, not 4.
6% on 60 million is a lot.
We can negotiate. We're in the business of negotiating. Everything's negotiable. But really, just think about the selling experience. The minute that you introduce them to the sales office, you've got a team that's hugging this customer, that will follow up, that will share information, they'll send invitation, they'll send mixed checks. I'm just kidding. But everything and anything that can be done to bring them to the finish line and equip them with information that, all of this will be hard to regurgitate. But when you work with a sales team on site, they do the work for you. And they do a phenomenal job because that's all they do is all day long selling those individual projects.
So I don't know if we're wrapping up or anything, but I'm happy to answer any questions on these projects that we were showing up earlier. And I just want to, before I forget, because I always do this, I forget to introduce our sales teams at these functions, which is the purpose of doing these functions, right? Yeah. So Olga, if you could please stand up. Yeah. Olga represents us at St. Regis Residences in Brickell. Maria Scarola is representing us for Waldorf and Pompano and Rosewood and Hillsborough Beach. We have Kinga with Fisher Island. And we have Rita with Rivage and Bal Harbour. Thank you. And then we have Mr. Chris Levin, who's our King of Palm Beach for the Ritz-Carlton Residences in West Palm. And Joey Colombo. And our lease is here representing Viceroy and Baccarat in Brickell.
And by the way, I'm paying 7%.
There we go.
Paying 7%.
7%. She might be my favorite.
You just bring me the client, I close them, and I pay you right away 7%.
But again, I encourage you to speak with them because I can give you the vision, the kind of the story, but really the details and really the boots on the ground and the hard work is they do, and they know all the details probably more than me now at this point in all the projects. So I just wanted to introduce that, so thank you.
Yeah, can I say one thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can bring your clients, you don't have to be licensed in Florida. You would get a referral fee equal to the percentage.
Correct.
So let's say if it's 7% in your building, you get a referral fee of 7%. You don't have to be licensed. You can just send them down, and we'll take care of them with whatever project.
That's a good point, Chris. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get lost in the semantics. The commission is the commission. The referral fee equals the commission. Same thing. Same thing.
Yep. Yeah.
I got a
Okay.
question. So you talked about competition, especially on this slide about pre-construction developments. And I have a little aviation background, and I'm just trying to understand. You can stay on that slide if it helps out.
Yeah.
Context. But with the developments that's coming up, any thought about? And I'm thinking about your competitive edge down there as well, just to differentiate yourself from the other competitors. Is there any talks where it's just like looking at what's coming here in New York, what's coming in LA, especially with the Olympics, thinking about like electro vehicle takeoff and landing aircraft, any like pads that you guys are thinking about adding to the properties as a soft dollar amenity to the clients that's potentially looking to move in?
Yeah, we've dabbled in looking at helicopter landings in some of our sites, but it's been difficult. Fisher Island, for example, would have been the perfect for helicopters, but they no longer allow helicopters to fly onto the island. Olga, I think, has requested for us to put a helipad in St. Regis, even though we can't. You can do a floating dock one, but sometimes it's just too cost obtrusive to do. But I have to say, former partner, still friend, Steve Ross in West Palm Beach is partnering with a drone company to do drone landing stations in Palm Beach, at his courts in Apogee, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami to help alleviate, with that traffic congestion that we have. But I think more and more, it's very hard to accommodate that in dense population centers like downtown and Brickell. But as you get into more kind of open area, like near the beach, I think you can probably start incorporating that, but it hasn't been really top of mind for us just yet.
I do think there's a competitive edge there, especially in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Helicopters and what I'm talking about is two different things, but look into it.
Yeah.
Especially companies like Joby. Well, it's a premium, I would say offering that could help with selling.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, you might have given yourself a new business idea. Why don't you come to South Florida and try it yourself, huh? Yes, sir.
What's your opinion on the raising insurance cost of properties? Is something that can be a serious concern for buyers?
Well, the good news is it's kind of flatlined. And what's interesting about it has flatlined in the last 18 months. We had some hurricanes that hit the west coast of Florida in the last few years. And, when there's a hurricane, we've been fortunate in Miami. We've had, I don't want to jinx it, but we've only had one hurricane in 20 years. And it was a Category 2, and it just basically uprooted a lot of old landscaping and didn't need to be replaced anyway. Insurance costs did go a little nuts after 2020, but it did flatline in the last 18 months. And what's interesting about your question is that was kind of the seed behind the idea of Governor DeSantis wanting to literally eliminate property taxes because insurance costs got so high. So he didn't want to get involved in the private enterprise of those insurance companies, but he does control public. So
in condos though, it's funny. We don't get that question that much, right? Because as you're a buyer, you're working out what is your monthly bill, right? So insurance is captured in your monthly HOA, right? So you're looking at, is it $2? Is it $220? Is it $180? The more services you have, the more expensive it is. But as long as you're comfortable with that monthly or annual HOA, insurance comes up on single family home ownership, but not condominium high rises, as much as you think.
Yeah.
So once these projects are done, what's next in your pipeline? Any kind of forecasting as to, are you going to continue with this high-end luxury?
So, yeah, great question. There's only so many people that can afford $50 million apartments, right? And so we're very conscious of that. I would love nothing more than to build housing and condos that range from $1 million to $3 million that most people 30, 40 have saved up can afford if they want to move or have a second home. It's just really hard to find those opportunities in this
Lauderdale.
in this market. Well, I'll get there. But you've seen, I have a couple sites next to, like I'm finishing Casabella residences, we're delivering this summer by BB Italia, and I have 2 sites next door. You know, Casabella was sold out again at $1,000 a foot. So I would love to bring more product to the market at $1,000 a foot. It's just really hard to make the numbers work, the way land costs, the way construction costs are, to make those, you know, profitable enough for me to want to do it. But I look for those opportunities all the time. And that's where not tertiary markets, but secondary markets or other primary markets have become more popular. People have started to migrate out of Miami a little bit and go into Fort Lauderdale, for example. I'm selling, you know, first luxury high rise on Muscle in downtown for $1,300 a foot. If I had that same project in a similar like-kind location in Miami, that'd be $2,200 a foot. So you are seeing the growth of Fort Lauderdale, you are seeing the growth of West Palm Beach, you are seeing the growth of Boca, and even on the beaches too, Fort Lauderdale Beach, Pompano Beach, Hillsborough Beach. You know, I'm gonna launch 4 projects probably in 10 months. One will be like $2,600 a foot, 2 will be $1,600 a foot, and the third will be $1,400 a foot.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to capture that market that can afford those units, right? Because, you know, at some point there's a tipping point and something has to reset. You know, I'm looking for those opportunities. It's very hard to find.
I think it's important.
Undervalued beachfront in certain parts of South Florida. You know, like you said, Highland Beach, Pompano Beach. These are places where they've never seen luxury condos before, and it's a great opportunity for someone to come in and go into a market where, you know, they can buy something in that lower price point and still get the same luxury they'd be getting.
Same luxury, you know, like thank you, Chris, like Sunny Isles, there's a couple projects selling right now for $2,400 to $2,700 a foot. I'd say same or better quality, Maria's selling in Pompano at $1,500, $1,600 a foot, right? So it's, what quality of life do you want? It's actually, Pompano's really nice.
Pompano.
Pompano, I used to think of Pompano as my grandfather had a snowbird. He lived in Michigan and he would come for the winters, and it was a sleepy town. And the city, and I think Related has completely changed that. We're on our 4th building and we're selling down the street. We're building a brand new W hotel and condos to really liven up what has become a great evolution of that area. Again, that's at $1,600, $1,700 a foot when we started at $800 3 years ago. And so there are those opportunities to get in at achievable price points. They're just probably in markets that you don't know that much about, but you should, because the quality of life is the same, if not better.
And Pompano is this little cute beach town. Sorry?
Brightline will be making stops at those locations too, so they're constantly upgrading the Brightline. So now you can go from Miami, instead of just all the way to West Palm, you can stop in.
You stop in Aventura, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano, Boca, and so
It ties everything together and makes it much more livable.
Yeah.
And this
Thank you,
little
Chris.
Pompano beach town.
correct.
And
Thank you.
Pompano was right between Fort
No, no.
Lauderdale and Boca.
Wait, no,
I mean,
no.
how could we miss? you know?
I'm thanking you.
I think that it's very important also to understand that in the way that all of these counties and the role of the Brightline, how they've expanded and connected together, there's something for everyone at any price point. But living in South Florida and Miami is now a very eclectic experience. You don't have to look for South Beach. Every neighborhood is transformed and gentrified and has something unique to offer. You know, areas that we never thought about, industrial areas like the Design District and Wynwood and so on, that became a major destination. You know, it's similar to what we've had happen here in New York City. I was telling a developer yesterday in a conversation, is that there was a point where people would call from everywhere around the world and say, I'm looking for an apartment in Williamsburg. They're like, well, I've got something in Tribeca. So no, I just want to be in Williamsburg. In other words, Brooklyn was the destination. Typically, that was the second option. And I think you're seeing more and more of that in South Florida and in Miami greater area, where some people are seeking those new areas and newly gentrified neighborhoods that weren't in the thought process, right? It was kind of like pocketed. You had like 5, 6 places where everyone would go to. Everyone was Miami Beach. And there was a little bit of Aventura and the North Beaches and Sunny Isles. And now it's kind of, everything's an option,
Yeah, and similar to how, when I was living here, I lived in the city, but, a lot of my executives or managers that I worked for, and a lot of people live outside the city and commute in on a 30 to 45-minute train ride. That's what exactly the Bright Line has allowed us to do. You can live in Pompano, Fort Lauderdale, you can live in West Palm Beach and Brighton, take an hour train and be productive and work on the train with Wi-Fi for an hour and and live in a completely different place. And so, that connectivity has really helped people expand and explore these other markets.
Melissa, you had something else?
Yes, I just wanted to, you were talking about lower priced properties, and in your portfolio here you have the Viceroy. And didn't you say that that's under 2,000 a foot?
Yeah, that's starting at like $1,200 a foot.
So that's something that's an opportunity in Miami for that buyer, right?
And move in today.
And that's prime location on Brickell. Walk to everything.
Well, Arlise, help us out.
Yeah.
Huh?
I still have 4 properties under $1,000 a square foot. You do not find those prices in Brickell and not in the Rivage.
Under 1,000 a foot in the Viceroy. Yeah. Yeah. And from the Viceroy, you walk to 30 restaurants.
You're one block from Brickell City Center, right? You have a boardwalk that along the river walk. You're across the bridge to downtown. You can walk to the Miami Heat Arena in 15 minutes. The Bayside. A lot of amenities. That's city living. That's your city living apartment.
Plus you have pick up and drop off marina for boats.
We don't have 1,000 a foot now in East New York. In Bushwick, we don't have 1,000, right?
You do have that.
Yeah.
But the high end, your portfolio actually does offer something for.
Yeah. On this picture, Viceroy Brickell is the only one of that product type. But I'll be launching a similar product type of that one in between Coral Gables and Coconut Grove at the end of this year.
What town? You said between.
It's unincorporated Dade County, but it's literally
No. Closer to the Gables.
Yeah.
But it's kind of right between, right?
The next project is in Coconut Grove? No.
We're going to sell it as Coconut Grove, but it's in unincorporated Dade County technically. Ish. Yeah. That'll be a cool project. Again, entry price points, $1,200 a foot, 1 bedroom starting at $650, 2 bedrooms $900, 3 bedrooms $1,250, right? So, efficient floor plans for that younger demographic who wants some first-time home ownership.
Yeah, I love the question, but I can assure you the Related's got their eye on that market as well. Demonstrating the high-end sales just is with data. I'm just trying to demonstrate and show you that high net worth people really are moving here like almost every week.
They lead the market and everyone follows,
It's incredible because when we were down there, we were tasked by our CEO to go and take as many videos as possible in sales rooms. And I tried to make so many appointments on the beach, everywhere. And for the very high-end projects, they would say, I'm sorry, we're just not showing. We're sold out. We do have one unit at 9 million, 10 million.
I remember when you were there too, and you did not have a chance to walk into Viceroy that Nick's referring to, and Arlise is referring to, right on Brickell. It's now open, and it really is spectacular. It's high end, starting at $600,000. It's spectacular. Yes, it's worth getting on a plane and come on down. The water's fine.
You away.
Thank you.
I mean, and our sales galleries are open.
On
You
Fisher
can
Island.
We started $17 million.
And the beauty of Rita's sales gallery, it's in Bal Harbour shops right next to Makoto. So it's a great experience.
Important to mention on the Fisher Island, there are little pockets that are known around the world. We had a European buyer that bought a place there, didn't like it, flipped it. All happened within a few months period at the end of last year. And they made a $3 million profit. They bought something for 12, they sold it for 15, and it was sold within 60 days. It wasn't even on the market for 60 days. That they were able to flip it, and that is how valuable Fisher Island is and how high in demand it is.
Just to give you a heads up on that particular building, it
Yeah.
is in the newest building to date.
Yeah,
In our buildings, the Six Fisher, you're gonna have even a higher appreciation because we're last property to be built.
It's the last residential building that can be
Right.
built on Fisher Island.
So you guys, the opportunities are endless because we're coming to supply and demand. We're gonna be fully built. There's no more properties coming. Only 860 residences on 216 acres. So.
850. The whole Fisher Island is only 850.
Acres. It's the whole Fisher Island. There is 49 buildings, total of 860 residents.
There you have it.
Low density, the highest aggregation of the ultra high net worth individuals in the United States. So bring them on. We still have few units. I want to pay you the big commissions too.
Yes. All right. Any more questions? Yes.
Anyone can do Airbnb?
Yeah.
They can do Airbnb or
We're delivering in, I think we start closing in 2 weeks in the Nomad residences. So I fell in love with the Nomad Hotel here before it was changed to Ned. And we're doing the first Nomad residential building in the heart of Wynwood. And those will be you can rent them by the night if you want, or you can homestead them. But that's 320 units, and we still have about 10% of the building left. And those prices are between 800 and 1.2 million for the last remaining units.
All right. Yes.
I have a question. The last few years I've noticed the increase on branded residences, right? Especially in Florida. You have a lot of hotel brands who've ventured into residential properties. Now, I think a lot of buyers now are not just looking for spaces. They're more looking into experience.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a term now called experiential luxury.
Yes.
So what have you done to elevate that experience other than having amenities like gym and the usual?
Well, I think when you look at a lot of these projects, I don't know. I'm speaking for you, but I shall. Waldorf Astoria. When you design a building, you meet with their design team. There's a brand police. They guide on the finishes. They approve every aspect of it, and the living experience is to follow the standard of the Waldorf Astoria that you know of here from New York, that historically has carried the name of the brand. Probably the same with St. Regis. But in terms of amenities, I don't know, I go to these buildings, like a list of 17 amenities. What do they not have? How about we start with that? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I know you guys don't live in Miami, but in all of our sales centers, we do events and experiences in the galleries that are on brand, whether it's Waldorf, Ritz, or what do we have here? Rosewood, for example, Baccarat. Right. So everything we do is thought out meticulously by our head of marketing, Allison Goldberg, who does an amazing job of curating buyer events, broker events that will be as if they're experiences that you'll have in the building, right? So it's obviously up to the brand and the management when you're in the building to cultivate that community. But it's our job to give you kind of a sense of what that will be like when you come into the sales gallery.
Nick, do you mind if I mention something? Because he mentioned Waldorf.
Yeah.
Sure. And then Rita will go.
There you go.
So all of our brands are so particular to a very typical, a very interesting buyer that's looking for specific needs. So for example, Waldorf Astoria, I always say each project has an edge. And our edge at Waldorf is that we're going to have completely private residential, only 92 units, but 2 restaurants open to the public. So that's one amenity that other buildings don't have, like Rosewood Residences on Hillsborough Beach. They're going to have private restaurants only open to our clients and our owners. When that, on top of that, you have to tennis courts, pickleball, padel. So every brand has its own edge, and I think that's what kind of sets each project apart.
Rita?
Rita
Palm
wanted to
Beach,
say
what's
something.
so important in Palm Beach is that, you know, we have 0 branded residences except for Ritz that's coming, and we've 90% sold on a couple more brands. But in Palm Beach, it is all about social clubs. $600,000, $600,000 to join a, $600,000 to join a dinner club, right? $1.5 million to join a golf club. So buyers are really craving amenities and private spaces within their building in Palm Beach. I'm just speaking specifically for Palm Beach because there's so much competition for, you know, the private clubs, the dinner clubs, the golf clubs, etc. So to buy into a building with a brand and have your own club within that brand is extremely important and valuable. You know, we can look at a couple of buildings that have already sold out that 60% of the people bought in those buildings just to join the club, literally.
Well, a lot of it is just a design experience and how it makes you feel walking in. We have the Baccarat here in New York on 53rd Street. When you walk into this building, you feel like you're in some crystal house or something, right?
That
That
lobby's
restaurant over
sensational.
there, the lobby. So it's really an experience. And when you invite someone for dinner, when people come to see you, it's how you feel. And if you
Ownership.
it's a sense of ownership and a sense of pride and bragging rights and all that good stuff. And you know, when you feel this way, maybe you're more successful in life because you live in the Waldorf Astoria. You know, it's.
But I'm gonna give you the flip side.
Yeah, give me the flip side.
Okay, Rita.
Let's do it.
You're selling without a branded name.
Yeah.
And
You're
you
selling
get
Bal Harbour.
more,
You're
Can I
selling,
tell-
but
activity
yeah.
and less people holding you back because you don't have the branded name. So we're on the ocean in Bal Harbour. We started with 56 homes. We're down to like 49 because our large homes weren't large enough. They've become even larger. So we put units together. We have over 23,000 square feet of amenities from pickleball to padel on a 2.8 acre piece of land, which is very rare to find in our area. But the beauty of Rivage is you have this architect, SOM, who did the World Trade Center in New York City, very, you know, globally world renowned. But this project is so special and unique, and because we don't have to answer to all those corporate gurus, we have the 23,000 square feet of amenities designed for that buyer who doesn't want to be in the Four Seasons because all the hedge fund guys from New York are there. This is more of the anonymity. They want the exclusivity. They want the quiet. They want to go to the pool and not have to talk shop. So our building was sold with that quietness in mind, and we're almost 70% sold.
Yeah, and not, I'd say not all of our products are branded, but they are, right? So like Rita hit it, we don't have to, you know, adhere to brand standards or guidelines, but a little bit of the brand is Bal Harbour, right? You're unique, everything has a unique selling proposition. I think we brand when we can, only if we can charge a premium, right? I pay the brands a lot of money. I would love to not brand, right? There's a resident of Six Fisher Island. The brand is Fisher Island. It's the hardest island to get onto to get a membership. You can only go by ferry or boat, right? So you're selling, your brand is Fisher Island exclusivity security. Rivage, your brand is Beach, Bal Harbour, last development site in Bal Harbour, 5-minute walk to the shops, that lifestyle. And so, you know, every project has a brand. It's just not a residential brand or a hospitality brand, but you know, it has its own identity.
100%.
Thank you.
By the way, we do have a La Rivage here in New York that's been around for, I don't know, past 40 years or something. What's the address? But we do have it. It's not that unknown. So you're stuck. You have a brand. But obviously Bal Harbour, you know.
Yeah.
SON.
Bal Harbour is the brand.
Yeah.
And by the way, this woman over here to the right, Allison Goldberg, is the Chief Marketing Officer of Related. When you take the opportunity to look at the various websites of these beautiful properties, she created that along with all of the other marketing tools that we use to sell every day. Extremely valuable member of the team.
great about you guys that you allow all your brokers to just compete against each other.
I mean, all your projects.
For the project, and it just you allow that freedom.
Oh, you should see us at the Christmas party. We have a blast. Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing because it creates a marketplace, right? And every project speaks to somebody else in a different way. You know, for some people, baccarat means nothing. For others, it's everything. Maybe because someone gifted you something very special at an important moment in
Yeah,
life.
every buyer is different, and I like to think that I have something for everyone.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good sign.
Sarah, yeah.
For investment, if you have to suggest the best deal in terms of potential appreciation, and another one as the best building for return, cap rate, which are the two?
Oh, thank you, Nick.
That's a good question.
I'd say it all comes down to really, it used to be, you know, location, but it's also timing, right? If you buy when a project launches, you're probably going to do pretty well, right? If you, from as far as a total return and appreciation, and also how long you're going to hold it, right? Because you can buy Fisher Island's completing right now. You're paying more than what you paid 3 years ago. You'll still get more if you resell it when it's done, a little bit, but not as much as if you bought 2 years ago, right?
Yes,
So
in the long term.
from a total appreciation standpoint, the trick is to buy at launch.
Yeah.
Always.
Can I just
And
say
from a-
something since I haven't had a
Yes,
chance?
yes, Olga.
Yes.
I can talk without my microphone. I talk really loud. I mean, obviously, all the projects are great. I never speak about St. Regis. I mean, every real estate is an investment. I never really pitch it as an investment, but I want to say that the land in Brickell today, because we're located in South Brickell, is so valuable. It's going for about 120 to 140 million per acre. St. Regis sits on 3.5 acres of land on the water. It is, in my opinion, the most valuable land that you will not be able to replicate something of this caliber. And I don't know if you would agree that we're selling at below replacement cost, because if you were to take this land today, you purchase that land today, it will be worth $700 million just for land alone. And at the prices that we're selling today, I think it's a...
Yeah, I mean, I paid, I did a good deal on the land, but if I had to pay for the land today, it'd be 3 times more than when I got it. And again, you know, unique selling proposition, scarcity of product. I think all our markets here are amazing locations and kind of hard barriers to entry. Like Olga said, this is the last site in Brickell because prices have gone up exponentially, especially since COVID, that, you know, the condo buyouts that everyone talks about that I still look at all the time, almost impossible to do in Brickell. So.
One question I have is the common charges. What's the common charges?
HOA.
What's it called in land?
HOA. Yeah, HOA. It depends. So like, it depends on the amount of service. Let's just say St. Regis is, I think, $2.20 a foot. $2.20 or $2 a month. That doesn't include your taxes. Right? Our offering plans are a lot different. We don't have to show the projected taxes like we do in New York. I remember those things.
Typically, the larger the building, the lower the HOA, right? Because
Yeah, because you can spread it out, right? But for Fisher Island, those residents, literally to live in the cheapest building on Fisher Island, your annual carry when you wake up is about $600,000, right? And that's not even assuming you have a mortgage on your property, right? That's Fisher Island fees, your HOA fees, in the building and everything. So, but that buyer can afford that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But typically on a typical condominium that's non-branded, new development, you're looking at between $130 and $160 a foot, and then when you add in services, it gets $2 and north.
Yeah, it's about being in the bigger buildings and coming into the project at the early stages. They've got the most amount of inventory. They haven't tested the market just yet. We notice in all new developments, there's a price appreciation. It goes up with the more you sell, the higher the price. The more you sell, the less you have of specific lines, and you know. So it's all about getting it. That's why you got to have relationships with a lot of these people. Be beyond the project that they're selling now that can't be delivered. some immediately and some in a short distance, they probably have an insight on what the next hot thing is going to be.
Yeah, and keep in touch because we have, you know,
and it's good to know about.
Maria's going to sell one of my next ones too. So
Yeah.
so they just keep in contact with all my teams here because they have the pulse on the market and they're going to be the ones that'll tell you what's coming up next. And they're here, so please take advantage of socializing, getting their information, learning about the projects and the opportunities that we have.
You're all here until?
A lot of them are here till Friday, but you know, Chris and Arlene and Joey and Rita and Kinga and Olga and Maria, they're all here, so please meet them. They're gonna be here till Friday, some leaving Thursday, but they'll stay if you've got clients or wanna know more. And
so they don't come to, they're not gonna come to our offices?
We can invite them to our office, of course. Feel free to have you invite them for lunches, reciprocate the lunch. One final piece
our presentations are portable, so we don't worry about offices. Yeah.
The final piece that I will say that's very important from a brokerage experience standpoint, culturally, South Florida new development projects, take the renderings, take the floor plans, take the videos, do whatever you want. Don't go out and claim that it's your project tomorrow morning, but it's a lot more easy going, and it's all use it on your social media, do whatever you need to do to generate a buyer ethically. You know, we're here in New York. Even if you talk about somebody else's project, you know, it's a revenue violation immediately. We're going to sue you. You're taking my product. The culture in South Florida is a lot more. It's an open market. Yes. Come on, there's enough for everyone. Let's work together. So it's a lot more relaxed and a lot more easygoing. And so you'll see with each one of these projects, they'll give you the material and they say, you know, just don't make any weird representation like you own the building or something like that. But otherwise, blast it out to everyone. Take your phone and just do a mass text message, because you know buyers and you know investors. In your case, 24 years. In your case, 15 years. In your case, a decade. And you know, some of us here have been in it for 30 years. You just spread it out to everyone and anyone you want. You have the freedom to do it. Just lead generate.
so you're going to connect with the teams here. I will, Eddie will share, or I'll send, here's what I think we should do. I will send Eddie the unbranded drop boxes, the broker toolkits for all of the related projects. And he can send that out to you guys. So everything is unbranded. There's unbranded e-blasts, unbranded videos, unbranded brochures, fact sheets, floor plans. And I will actually package the entire portfolio, because this is only a handful of what we have. So I will package up the entire portfolio that's currently selling, all unbranded, the broker toolkits for the drop boxes. I will get that to Eddie, and Eddie's gonna get that information to all of you. And believe me, all of our sales centers are open and welcoming. We invite you to come. We invite you to bring your brokers.
Allison, even post-COVID, we do a lot of Zoom calls with New York brokers, with their clients right there, you know, to go through the presentation. It opens that door up before they even get to Miami, and then you're still in control.
Well,
I encourage you.
We just made a 10 million sale just a couple of weeks ago with Korea on Zoom. You know, right? Am I correct? Where's Andy? Yeah, that was done all on Zoom. Yeah. So we have Italy in the house. We have various countries here. Brazil, you know.
Well, Italy, we have direct flights to Milan now from Miami.
Yeah.
Started April 1st or March 1st. That's incredible. The connectivity in Miami now to the direct flights to the Middle East, to Japan, to everywhere. It's
And we want to help you guys. Part of the philosophy at Related is we want to help you guys sell. We want to make your job easier. So to Eddie's point, the only thing we don't want you to do is to publish a website and make it seem like you're the developer, but I will provide you. It's a big problem for Chris in the back. He
In
hates
Florida,
that.
you would not believe what they do.
Yeah. No, it's
They come into the sales center and then pretend that they're part of the team. But
it only happens to you.
Really easy, and I've been doing it myself as an in-house agent, as I use my WhatsApp because it reaches so many people, and I'll take my videos from the Dropbox that you guys will all have, and I will literally post it on my WhatsApp, and all of my clients and friends from around the world see the video. And if you just put a few taglines to reach out to you and what the project is priced at, you will be shocked to see how many people reach out to you asking questions. It's the easiest, it's free, and it's amazing marketing, and it's coming directly from you. So we have so many tools that we can use, and we're ready to make some deals happen with you guys.
Good. All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you, Related family.
Thank you, Ed.